So last week we talked about midpoints, and we found midpoints of a segment. And if I have this segment that goes from 0 to 10, the midpoint or the halfway point would be right here at 5. And what it does is it cuts it into two equal pieces. When you are dealing with a segment that's on just a number line, it's really easy to find the midpoint without doing any math. What we're going to see today is that you're going to have a segment that kind of goes diagonally, or they may not even give you a segment and they just might give you the coordinates, the XY coordinates, and you're going to have to figure out what the coordinate of that midpoint would be. I'm sure some of you could figure it out without me having to give you the nice little formula. But just keep in mind that we're going to be still finding the midpoint, except for instead of just finding a number, we're going to be finding a new X, Y coordinate. So these all will be coordinates. So we already talked about midpoint, but just as a quick reminder, the midpoint is the halfway point on a segment. You're going to get really probably sick of me today saying the word point, because what happens on these is everyone wants to find like one number and call it a day, but we have to remember that these are X, comma, Y points. So you're going to have to find two answers: the X value of your midpoint and the Y value of your midpoint. Once you find the X value and the Y value, you're done. So there is a formula for this. And the midpoint formula, you won't have to memorize it. I will give it to you every time we take a quiz or a test. So they give you here that the first coordinate, they want us to find the midpoint of this segment PQ. P is at the coordinate x1, y1, and Q is at the coordinate x2, y2. So to find the midpoint, I'm going to draw a big parenthesis here because I'm going to write my little formula here. To find the midpoint, what I do is I take my x1 and my x2. I take my x's, I add them together. After I add my x's together, then I divide by 2. I'm finding the average of my x's. Once I add my x's together, x1, x2, once I add them together and divide by 2, that gives me the x value of my midpoint. And then comma. And then we do the same thing with the y's. You take your y1 and add it to your y2, or take your two y values, add them together, divide by 2. That gives you the y value of your midpoint. So basically, if you can add two numbers together and divide by 2, you can find a midpoint. You have to do it twice. You have to add the x's, divide by 2, add the y's, divide by 2, write them as a coordinate, an xy coordinate. So you have to make sure you're always doing this twice. So I'm going to go over example 1 with you, and then I might let you loose on the try-its, and then really that's it for notes. So example 1 says, find the midpoint. What is the midpoint of this segment A, B? A is right here at negative 3, 2. So A is at negative 3, 2. And B is at 4, negative 2. So I'm going to label my point. I am a labeler. So I'm going to label my points with x1, y1, x2, y2. My first coordinate, since this is the first, they get the 1s. This is my second, so they get the 2s. First value is always the x. Second value is always the y. And now that I've labeled my points, I can plug into my formula. So the midpoint says here to take x1 plus x2. So negative 3 plus 4 divide by 2, comma. And then you take your y's, 2 plus negative 2 divide by 2. You can't leave it like that because we actually need to find the numbers. So in this case, if you are typing these into calculators, you would type in -3 plus 4, press enter, figure out what's -3 plus 4. What is -3 plus 4? 1. So this is 1. And then you would take 1 divided by 2, and you would get 0.5 or 1/2. And then same thing here. And then I put a comma. You would do 2 plus -2, and that gives you what? 0. And then 0 divided by 2 is 0. So this is the midpoint. That's it. Add the numbers, divide by 2. Add the numbers, divide by 2. Put a comma in between them, parentheses around them, and you're done. So like right here, 0.50 is about right here. This would be about the midpoint. Any questions on that? Let's try just the first one. If you can do the first one, you can do the second. I already know you could do, if you can do the first one right, we don't need to bother trying the second one. So try that first one on your own. Okay, the very first thing I would do on this, I'm going to zoom in a little bit, is I would label my points. First points are going to get your 1s. So this is an x1, y1. The second point gets your 2s. So this is x2, y2. As soon as I do that, I feel like I'm finding slope from last year. Does anyone else feel that way? You see the x1, y1, x2, y2? This is easier than slope, I think, because you're adding instead of subtracting. So then, to find the midpoint, you add your x's, -2 plus 8. Then you divide by 2, comma, add your y's, 5 plus -12, divided by 2. So simplify this down. -2 plus 8 is 6. 6 divided by 2 is 3. Notice I kept my parentheses. Comma. 5 plus -12 is -7. -7 divided by 2 is -3.5. So in order to have these perfectly correct, you have to have the parentheses and you have to have the comma because it's a point. It's a coordinate. Any questions on that? Not bad, right? Pretty good day for this. Okay, so what you are going to do today in that assignment packet, you are going to do page 6, which actually is the very first page, which seems kind of weird. And then you're going to do 2 through 20 even. What I would do for all of these first, if you take a look at this assignment packet, for 2, 4, 6, and 8, for all of these, you're just finding the midpoint. I don't need you to do all of them. Just do the evens. Somebody's going to end up doing all of them. Don't do that. What you have to do, though, for 2, 4, 6, and 8, you have to find the coordinates of those points. So just as a reminder on how to find the coordinates. Your x coordinates, how much you go left and right. Your y coordinates, how much you go up or down. So this point right here, from 0, 0, I go left 5, up 5. So this would be -5, 5. Because I went left 5, up 5. This point right here, from 0, 0, I go right 2, down 5. So 2, -5. Now, you have to know what these coordinates are before you can find the midpoint. So it's the very first page in your assignment packet. It says page, we'll pretend like the 6 printed perfectly, page 6. But you're going to need to, on 2, 4, 6, and 8 on this, you're going to have to find the actual coordinates first. And then when you jump here to 10 through 20, I give you the coordinates. Now, yes, there are some junky decimals. It's totally fine. They're not going to be perfect. But just do 2 through 20 even. And you can check these in GoFormative if you want to check them as you go. It's already there for you. All right. Good luck.